My name is Mark Nanzer. I'm the Executive Director for the Retired Employees of San Diego County. Welcome to those of you who have joined us. We hope to see some more folks coming in. We had, I think, a little over 20 RSVPs, so we think that there might be some stragglers and people running to get their coffee. I know Mike had to run and get his coffee, our presenter today. But before I turn it over to Mike, who is Mike Kasajarian. Mike, I'm going to get it wrong. Kasarjian.
There we go.
Kasarjian, thank you.
Yes.
Mike Kasarjian from the Southern California region of the American Red Cross. He's going to do a presentation today on the fire safety and other safety measures and preparedness for you all. But before I turn it over to Mike, I just want to go through a couple of logistical things. Thank you again for keeping yourselves muted and your cameras off. It'll lessen confusion and allow Mike to focus on the presentation that he's going to be doing. Before I turn it over to Mike, I want to show you guys a couple things. Let's see now. Just give me a minute here. So just want to make reference to a couple of upcoming presentations. Today, of course, is American Red Cross. For our first in-person event, the return of the popular ResDec Roundup. That's right, ResDec Roundups are going to, our first one since the pandemic hit, which has been over 2 years. And that's going to be at Hooley's La Mesa. There's an outdoor patio there. I will be there on March 2nd at 3:30, and I hope to see some of you there. And let your friends and retiree colleagues know about this. And then in March also, we have the virtual ResDec presentation, Elder Abuse in the Time of COVID, which is will be our old colleague and friend, Paul Greenwood, former Deputy District Attorney and in the Senior Fraud Division at the county. He's always a great presentation. So he'll be on March 8th at 10 a.m. And then another return presenter, that is Kathy Purdon from the County of San Diego Deferred Compensation Program. She's actually with Nationwide. They oversee that program, and she'll be doing a presentation on March 15th. So just want to let you know about that. I also want to let you know, let me stop sharing here. Andrew, can you see this page that I move the tabs, or is it still?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
This is our ResDec YouTube channel. Mike's presentation is being recorded today, and it will be posted a couple days post today's presentation. So check back to the ResDec YouTube page. All you have to do is go to resdec.net, right? And then click on, you'll see a little button here, ResDec YouTube, to take you right to that page. And it shows all the different presentations we've done over the last couple of years. And they're there for you in an on-demand fashion. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is that, so I'll click off of this now and stop the share, is that we found as we do these presentations with our presenters that if we, to not have questions during the presentation, but if you have a question, I encourage you to use the chat function, which is down below on the very bottom of your screen. You bring your mouse down there, hit chat, and you can type a question in and just type it in. It says, it may say everyone, but you can just type it into ResDec. That's me. And I will grab all those questions, put them on a Word document, and ask them of Mike once he is done with his presentation. So with that, Andrew, am I forgetting anything? Because I've been on vacation for the last couple of weeks, folks. So
I think you got it covered.
I'm totally going to be rusty today. But without further ado, then I am going to turn it over to Mike. Mike, thank you again. And also Kaylee Hernsberger from American Red Cross for this great partnership. We appreciate your time and presentation today. And I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Okay, do you see the title slide?
I do.
Great. All right, I'm Mike Kasarjian. I'll be your presenter for the next 45 minutes or so. And what we're going to be talking about is general disaster preparedness. So we're going to touch on a few things. We're not going to go into depth on anything, but we're going to kind of tease you into getting prepared. And we'll talk about some things that you can prepare in general for, even though we're not going to go into depth into any particular kind of disaster. All right, I'm an EMT. One of the things that I do for the Red Cross is I am a first responder at community events like festivals and parades and fairs and things like that. Red Cross will be asked to set up a first response, first aid booth, and I'm one of the, I enjoy manning those booths for first aid response. In between that, I'm the Pacific Division Preparedness Advisor. So for the various Western states, I help them set up these kinds of presentations and track statistics and so forth. All right, our theme for today is that it is easy to prepare regardless of what kind of disaster strikes. There are 3 steps to preparing, and we'll go through those steps briefly. They are get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. And the important thing is that after this presentation, you'll get emailed to you. I think that's correct, Mark. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. I'll send Mark this brochure, a PDF of this brochure, Be Red Cross Ready, and it's going to go into a lot more depth on get a kit, make a plan, be informed than we could possibly go over in 45 minutes. It'll have checklists, it'll have next steps, it'll have first steps, and things like that. So this brochure, Be Red Cross Ready, is going to be everything regarding this general preparedness presentation. And I'll refer to it a few times, but know that after the presentation, you'll get it, and that'll be even more important than looking at the slides, even more important than going back to the YouTube and looking at the presentation again. This brochure will be your key to getting Red Cross ready.
Mike, if I could just interject one thing, I appreciate you reminding me of that. So for folks, once Mike sends me the presentation, I will have it. All you need to do to get a copy of it is to email us at resdec@resdec.net, resdc@resdec.net. And we will be happy to send that over to you. So, and don't hesitate. If you forget, you can always call us at the office as well, 619-688-9229, and we will get that to you. Back
Great.
to you,
And
Mike.
Mark, I'll actually come back to you a couple of times and have you repeat that information. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you for that. All right, bottom line is where we live in Southern California, odds are that a disaster will strike and no one's going to get ready for you. The whole idea is that it's up to you to get ready, whether we're talking about a windstorm, whether we're talking about an earthquake, whether we're talking about a fire, it's up to you to be ready. And if we're talking about a true disaster, you're not going to be able to count on help. The definition of a disaster is that first responders are overwhelmed and therefore cannot respond. So by definition, if we have a disaster, you can't count on help. And this presentation will tease you into getting ready to being self-sufficient for 2 weeks. You may have heard for years we've been saying, and agencies have been saying that you should be self-sufficient for 3 days. It's now clear that 3 days is not enough. After a disaster, there is no way we're getting to everybody within 3 days, and it's going to be more like 2 weeks that you need to plan on being self-sufficient, particularly for an earthquake, because it's clear that our plan used to be that if Southern California had an earthquake, Northern California would help respond and vice versa. It's clear now when we look at faults that if Southern California has a major earthquake, Northern California is going to also. The two faults are going to slip each other. So we can't count on Northern California helping us. We're going to have to be self-sufficient for 2 weeks until responders can come from other states and assist after a major earthquake or after a major flood. So that's going to be what we're going to be talking about today, is what does that mean to be self-sufficient for 2 weeks? There's all kinds of disasters that we can anticipate. Of course, we could have a wildfire. This is from the Dixie Fire last year. I'm going to show you some photos of disasters. They're all from California. So these are things that could hit very close to home. This is the earthquake in Napa. This is actually a small earthquake, a 6.0 earthquake. We could expect an earthquake 10 times or even 100 times larger than that in Southern California. This is from the Northridge quake, also a relatively small quake, 6.7. Now, these pictures look horrible, but I want you to take away the message from these pictures is that people that were in these buildings survived, And almost certainly, if we have a major earthquake, you will survive too. You're not going to die in an earthquake. That's only a slim chance of that happening. So you're going to have to be prepared to live after this, to assist your neighbors and to help each other out and to survive until help can come. So again, you will probably survive a major earthquake. And so the idea is, what do you do then? This is a flood in Newport Beach. This is actually technically not a disaster because it was localized to Newport Beach and the beach cities around it, and therefore there was no shortage of first responders coming from elsewhere in Southern California. But for the people living in these homes, it was certainly a disaster. This is Linda, California. This is more of a disaster. These people had to evacuate, so there's no talking about surviving for 2 weeks or living for 2 weeks until help comes. You had to evacuate. In this situation. This is a windstorm a few years ago in Pasadena, California. Again, technically not a disaster, but certainly a major event for the people that were in the city of Pasadena without power for a week, and trying to get through and trying to get first responders to get through streets like this. And so we're going to talk about how to prepare in situations like this that may not even be a total disaster, but still you have to figure out how to take care of yourself for 3 days, for 2 weeks. The other kind of disaster, and actually the kind of one that I want to focus on a little bit more and emphasize a little bit more, is a house fire. A house fire, there's no shortage of first responders. There's no shortage of people that can come help, including the American Red Cross. But for the family in the house, this is certainly a disaster. It's certainly a tragedy. And it's by far the most common quote unquote disaster or tragedy that your family and that you will most likely see in your lifetime. There's actually a 25% chance that you'll have a household fire in your lifetime that requires fire department response. So there's really an excellent chance that that this could happen. There's a real likelihood of a fire in your home. And so I want to talk a little bit more about how to prevent fires and how to prepare for house fires as opposed to the other kind of disasters, and that we'll only slightly touch on. I'm going to try to jump to a video here. So let's see how I can do that. All right, I'll start the video in a sec. Mark and Andrew, you'll jump on if there isn't sound or if there isn't picture.
In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can get out of control and turn dangerous. Fire is fast. It only takes minutes for thick black smoke and flames to fill a house. There is no time to grab things to take with you. There is only time to escape. Fire is hot. A fire's heat can kill. Room temperatures can be 100 degrees at the floor and rise to well over 600 degrees near the ceiling. In only a few minutes, a room can get so hot that everything in it catches on fire at once. This is called flashover. Fire is dark. Fire isn't bright, it's pitch black. Fire is deadly. Smoke and toxic gases kill more people than flames do. Fire is fast. Know the facts.
All right, and I'll follow that up with another video. One of the messages in that video was that fire is fast and you don't have any time to do anything but escape. You don't have time to gather belongings or try to figure out where you're going or where you're meeting or any of those things. And I don't think that most people appreciate quite how fast a fire is. So let's do a demonstration of that now. All right, it's a real fire, but it's set on a stage at a fire department. Someone has dropped a cigarette into a wastebasket. But the same thing could be if you dropped a match from lighting a candle into a wastebasket, or something else, or just had a candle nearby the sofa. So within 30 seconds, the garbage can is already lit on fire, and it's starting to lick at the sofa here. Within 40 seconds, we've caught the edge of the sofa on fire. And now we're spreading. This is just 1 minute. Within 1 minute, we're almost at the size that a fire extinguisher won't help anymore. At this point, it's time to get out and forget the fire extinguisher and get out. And we're talking about 1 minute from the time that the cigarette was dropped into the ashtray, or the candle tipped over. Okay, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and those deadly gases are starting to fill the room. So it's becoming a highly dangerous situation now, and certainly no longer time for a fire extinguisher. This is out. You should be out and calling the fire department from the front steps. Okay, this room is getting very hot now. It's hard to tell how hot this room is, but with the smoke gathering at the ceiling and the heat from that fire, there's going to be a very rapid acceleration of flames, and in very shortly here, we're going to have what's called flashover, where the entire room just spontaneously lights. All right, that's it. We're in flashover now. We're only at just over 2 minutes, and we have flashover in this room, which is completely unsurvivable. This is what firemen get injured by, is unintentional flashover. All right, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the room is completely taken over, which means, the second story and the hallway are also completely taken over. All right. So the message there is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and this room, at least, or this portion of the house, is unsurvivable. And that's what I want to get across, is how fast you have to escape after a fire. This is not a situation to plan what to do once the fire starts, and that's where our message comes through of how to prepare for this in case this occurs to you, how to prepare for this in advance. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's easy to prepare for a disaster, but many of the same steps are the same for preparing for a house fire in your home. And that's get a kit, make a plan, be informed. We'll talk about those a little bit more right now. And then I've indicated that everything is in the brochure. All right, with that, I want to take a breath, because I talk a lot and I talk fast, and see if, before we jump into get a kit, make a plan, and be informed, if we have any questions at this point. So you can unmute now and ask questions if you like. I don't know if there's any chat questions, but this is a good time. I'll take a breath here and let you make comments.
Mike, we actually have one. Marge, I'm going to ask you to open up your microphone and ask the question yourself. I just don't want to get your question wrong. Okay. I took it down, but go ahead and ask Mike the question.
Yeah, I noticed it was lacking a little bit. So for the people that live in a 2-story plus condos, and the fire starts above you and you aren't aware of it, what can you do?
Fire starting above you is not as tragic a situation as a fire starting below you, for obvious reasons, right? Because you can still get down and out, and that's key. I don't know how the alarms in your building are wired. It depends on how new your building is. But when you hear that smoke alarm, the idea is the reaction you should have is to evacuate, not to decide, is this a false alarm or not a false alarm? Figure out after you've evacuated whether it's a false alarm or not. I can't count. I was way back when I didn't have gray hair. I was a resident assistant at a dormitory and in college. And it's surprising when a fire alarm goes off that people are actually don't evacuate and have to be encouraged to evacuate. And that's what I want you to not do. Don't certainly question, is it a false alarm or not, but question it from your front yard of the condo. Don't question it from inside your room. Put on your robe and get outside, and then decide what the situation is and whether you're safe or not.
So
Now, go ahead.
I think what I would hear is their internal smoke alarms or something like that. So if it's like a persistent and it doesn't go away, make sure leave.
Right.
Or,
And I don't know if you have the flashers in your building, but if you do, it's possible that the buzzing from the smoke alarm stops, the ringing, but just the flashing goes on. And the flashing means the fire alarm is still active. They're just trying not to irritate you too much.
okay.
And then of course, we'll talk about making a plan. This is for everybody. This is not for the people in the condo and not just for Marge, but everybody. We're going to talk about a plan, an escape plan. And one of the key things to an escape plan is every room needs 2 different escape routes. And one of those might be down a fire ladder, down your window, down a folding ladder, down your window. For example, our upstairs in my house only has 1 staircase leading to it. There are no other ways to get out other than the window. So right under the window, we have one of those folding fire ladders that within seconds can be hooked onto a window, and you can climb down the ladder outside. But remember again, you don't have time to go find the fire ladder. You don't have time to figure out how to break the window. All these things are things you're going to plan in advance when we talk about making a plan. How are you going to break the window? Is it with your fist? That's not a good idea. Is there a chair nearby? What are you going to do? And what's that secondary route if you can't get down the stairs? Again, think about how fast this all has to occur. What other questions? Feel free to come off mute and jump on in. All right, let's get into the heart of the presentation then. All right. So it's easy to prepare. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Let's look at that. Let's see what it means to create a kit. Create a kit, if you're in your deluxe level of preparation, is actually 3 kits. We'll talk about an under the bed kit, what you should have under your bed. Remember, 1/3 of the day, maybe more, you are in your bed. And so if something is going to occur, there's a likelihood or a possibility that occurs while you're in bed. So we'll talk about things to put in your under the bed kit. We'll talk about the household kit. That's your supply for 3 days to 2 weeks. And we'll talk about your go bag, which is a mobile version, supplies for 3 days in case you need to evacuate quickly. That's what you would use if you have to evacuate for a wildfire. That's what you would do if you had to evacuate for a flood and you couldn't stay in your home, or rising water and you couldn't stay in your home. That's what the go bag is for. The idea is you're going to escape. But if you put this go bag in your front door, in your coat closet, you can grab the go bag on the way out, and it takes no time to escape to grab your go bag, and you have everything that you need. What you don't want to do is be collecting stuff, once the fire starts, especially if it's a home fire. A wildfire, you may have a few minutes, but for a home fire, you don't have a few minutes preparation time. All right, under the bed kit is the one thing that the brochure that I keep referring to doesn't have in it. What you're going to put in your it has a household kit and a checklist. It has a go bag and a checklist. It doesn't have a checklist for your under the bed kit. So think about if you're in bed and an earthquake hits or a big windstorm hits, what you need. You'll need shoes for broken glass. You'll need gloves to move broken glass and to make a pathway for yourself. You'll need your eyeglasses. You may need some basics for a first aid kit. I always say just gauze and a gauze roll is all you need, and a flashlight. And in fact, that top row on this slide is what you want in your under the bed kit, right? And don't forget a pet leash. Your pets are going to freak, especially if it's an earthquake. And so you want to secure your pet and make sure that they get out with you. So have a plan for your pet. If your pet is a cat, have a cat carrier box nearby. Hopefully you can corral the cat and get out, or at least the cat is safe from the broken glass and the you know, whatever plaster has come down or whatever has broken. So the idea is don't forget about your pets when you're being safe. Particularly, your pet is one of those things you want to secure immediately. So you want that leash, that extra leash or that carrier in your under the bed kit. The other two kits, the household kit and the go bag, we're not going to talk about a lot. There are checklists for those things in your Be Red Cross Ready brochure. All right, there's two ways to do the kit. One is to build your own, and one is to go to redcross.org and get a partially started kit for you. But in any case, you want to customize it for yourself, and that's why I personally like to just build my own kit. It just takes a trip to Ace Hardware or to Home Depot to get some of the things, and to CVS or the grocery store to get the other things, and you're all set with building your own kit. And then it's customized completely for you and your pet and your child. You know, some people will need diapers and diaper wipes. Some people won't need diapers and diaper wipes. So it's best just to build I like building my own kit. But if the only way you're going to get a kit is, you know, any kit is better than no kit, right? So purchase one from Red Cross if that's a good way for you to get started. The Red Cross kits actually have a little bit of water in them and a first aid kit and so forth. There are different kits available on Red Cross. So get a kit is the first step on preparing. I just talked about it quickly, more details in the brochure. Next is make a plan. And the most important part about making a plan, since a home fire is your most likely disaster or most likely tragedy for you, and the most important thing about home fires is smoke alarms. Smoke alarms are absolutely essential in giving you a few more seconds to get out of that house, and they turn out to be life-saving. Smoke alarms are. Make sure you have a smoke alarm, one on each floor, one inside each bedroom, and one outside each sleeping area. And the reason when you have one inside the bedroom and one outside the bedroom is that often we close our doors at night, and therefore we want to make sure that to get the earliest alarm, we have the alarm in the hallway in addition to being in the bedroom. By the way, that about closing doors that's a recommendation to help slow down the spread of fires. Is they recommend that you sleep with your bedroom doors closed, because that really slows the gas from moving around and slows the fire from moving around. So if we are making a plan, the first part of our plan has to be getting smoke alarms in your house. Then if we're talking about planning for home fires, we think about what the two biggest causes of home fires are. One is cooking. So we want to make sure that we're cooking safe. And the key there is two keys there. Turn things off when you leave the kitchen. Even if you're only chasing after your toddler for a second, you know how chasing after your toddler for a second turns into something happened, and then it's 5 minutes that you're chasing your toddler or changing a diaper or whatever it is. And so you intended to only leave for a second, but you end up being distracted and leaving for several minutes. And so anytime you leave the kitchen, turn the burners off. The oven is safe, but the burners, I would suggest that you turn off. And the second most important thing I would say is that fourth bullet: keep a lid ready. You know, whenever I'm heating grease, and I do a lot of cooking. If I'm heating grease to fry bacon, if I'm heating grease to fry a steak, if I'm heating grease to whatever it is, frying some onions, I always have a lid that fits the pan right next to it. Because if you get a grease fire that starts, at first it's really small and you can easily put the lid over the pan and that'll squash the fire. But once it's big and it starts catching the cabinets that are above the firing pan, then it's too late, right? So to be hunting for a lid. So the idea is keep a lid close by so that you are ready to go in case something unexpected happens with the grease. And then the number 2 cause of fires is space heaters and heating appliances in general. So some obvious tips here on avoiding fires from heaters. The most obvious is don't dry things near or on your heater, like wet sweaters and wet socks and things like that. Make sure they're at least 3 feet from your heater, not closer than that, trying to discard them. And the second thing I would say is make sure you're not using an extension cord with the portable heaters. They will overheat the extension cords and start a fire with the extension cord itself rather than coming from the heater. All right, we are talking about making a plan. And we're talking about making a plan for a home fire in specific. So we talked about that we should have smoke alarms. We talked about being careful with burners in the kitchen and with heaters, because those are the 2 biggest causes of fire. And if something happens, then we need an escape plan. And again, I'm going to send you to the brochure because there's a map in there. There's a grid in there that you can draw a map of your house, that you can do something like this diagram that shows your number 1 escape route. And if your number 1 escape route is blocked, what your number 2 escape route is. So you'll make a map like that when you make a plan, and you'll practice your plan with your family. And you'll think about things like which rooms are the children in and how are they going to get out and how self-sufficient would they be. You'll think about where are locked windows and doors, and if that's your secondary escape path, how you're going to get out of there. You're going to think about the security bars. Do they have emergency releases? If they don't have fire releases on the security bars, that's not an exit route. So what is your exit route? And so forth. So all the details again in that brochure on how to make a home escape plan. And while we're thinking about a home escape plan, also think about California wildfires. How are you going to get out of your neighborhood? So when you're thinking escape plan, don't just think escape plan from your house. Think about what are several evacuation routes from your neighborhood in case a fire breaks out. A wildfire breaks out. How are you going to get out if roads 1 and roads 2 are blocked? Where's road 3 that you're going to get out on? Okay, so escape plan has 2 parts to it. Okay, we're talking about a plan. The last part, or the next part of your plan, is to take photos of your critical documents. And there's some suggestions here what your critical documents are, and store those documents up in the cloud. Not just a photo on your camera, not just a camera photo, not just a camera photo on your phone, but store them up in the cloud somewhere, whether that's Dropbox or Google Docs or wherever it is. And that way, if you run out of the house during a fire or after an earthquake and you don't have your phone with you, you can still get to your vital documents with anyone else's phone and a web browser, or anyone else's computer, or at a Red Cross shelter, they can access the cloud and help you get your documents. So take photos of your documents and store them somewhere not local to your phone. By the way, iCloud Photos is a good place for that also, if your phone is backing up to the iCloud. So somewhere where you can get to your vital documents away from your phone, but by anyone else. Finally, we want to create a communication plan and share it. So make sure you know who your contacts are. Make sure you have some out-of-town contacts, because after an earthquake or windstorm, it's very possible, in fact, likely, that local phone service doesn't work. Local cell calls don't work, but long distance ones do. And that has to do with, on landlines, it's obvious. On cell towers, it has to do with how cell towers prioritize calls. And know that texts are always prioritized over voice calls. So make sure you have someone that you can text out of town as a meeting point, as a communication plan, and make sure that everyone knows that that communication plan. And in addition to that, I keep a card like this in my wallet. In case I don't have my phone with me, I have my emergency contacts, my 3 or 4 emergency contacts with me at all times. All right. So we're talked about getting a kit. We talked briefly about making a plan, but this is going to be like a broken record, but the details on making a plan are in the Be Red Cross Ready brochure. Okay, again, I'm talking a lot. Again, I'm talking fast. So this is another excellent chance to take a break and go ahead and interrupt me with a chat or by just go ahead and speaking.
Can you please put the previous slide again?
The previous slide?
Yes, please.
Sure.
The one that has register as safe.
Okay, are you talking about
the previous one to this?
This one?
This one. I want to copy. Register and say.
Well, you'll get the slides. So there's 2 ways you can get the slides, and Mark and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but one, I think that you can get a copy of the slides from Mark by, in fact, Mark, this is a good time in a second to step in and tell us again how to contact you. But I think you can get the slides from him, and I'm pretty sure they're putting it up on your YouTube channel too. But Andrew, why don't you go ahead and step and address that, how they can get the slides.
If you want the slides, you will email us at resdec@resdec.net. That's resdc@resdc.net. And additionally, it'll be posted on our YouTube. So you will have plenty of opportunity to see all this again. And
for Carlos, because I know Carlos. Hey, how you doing, Carlos? It's good to hear your voice. Even if my email is more handy for you, send me an email and I'll send it to you. And Mike, I'm glad you took your slides out. I just wanted to share something real quick and see if I'm correct on this, Mike. Okay, just give me 1 minute here. Okay. Is this the correct guide, Mike?
You know, that looks like, scroll it down to the bottom. Let me see the bottom.
Oh, Northern California.
No, yeah, I mean, it's good and it'll be fine, but we actually have a Southern California version.
And you're gonna send me that.
I'm gonna send that to you. Yeah.
Okay.
So there'd be nothing wrong with this version, but ours is a little bit more. Northern California has slightly different issues than Southern California.
No,
so
that makes sense. No, I'm glad that I brought it up to make sure I had the correct one. And then just one more thing I'm going to share for everybody as well for just a quick minute. Let me see if I can find it here. So as Andrew mentioned, here's the email address, resdec@resdec.net, and that's our phone number. So multiple ways. Once I get the information from Mike, if we have an email from you or a phone call requesting any of the information that he's going to be providing to us, we'll be happy to get it to you. And I'll bring this up again at the end of the presentation too. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, other questions, chat, raise your hand, just speak up is the best.
So if we call to this telephone, we can have a copy of the Red Cross brochure?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark, is that a phone number in the invitation to join this meeting? Is that phone number in there also?
It is not.
Okay.
It's just our office number, and you can actually get it from our website, which is just www.resdec.net, and then there's a tab for contact information. Actually, it's right at the top of our website. Here, I'll show you that real quick too.
Marge, looks like Marge that you came off mute while he's bringing that up.
Well, I was just questioning, we will not have any hard copy of the brochure. It is all emailed, right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah. And then if you get the hard copy via email, you can print it up yourself if you like from home. So, and this is the website, resdec.net, and then there's our phone number right there at the top. We also have the same number as a toll-free number as well. And now I will stop hogging your presentation, Mike.
That's okay. That's what we're here for, is to disseminate information.
There you
So
go.
we're doing a good job. So all right. So so we talked about getting a kit and making a plan. The last part that I want to give an overview on is get informed. But again, I refer you to the brochure. This is just a teaser, this presentation, a 45-minute teaser to all the things that you can do. That'll be fine. All right, be informed. All right, the best way to be informed is what some people call reverse 911, but it's from San Diego County will send you texts when there are emergencies and what to do about it. And that is without a question the best way to be informed, and that's readysandiego.org/alerts-san-diego. For those of you that are signed up, you may have gotten a text this very morning about severe winds in eastern San Diego, and they're actually closing schools in eastern San Diego because they're worried about the safety of school buses in these high winds, because they're such a target for winds. And so had you been signed up for readysandiego.org, you may have, depending on what area of San Diego you're in and if it affected you, gotten a text this morning that said windstorm, a severe windstorm, and schools closed, and some more information about that. So this is without a question, the best way to get information for an emergency in San Diego. For those without a smartphone, there's always the radio. The AM and FM radio stations for the emergency alerts are down in the lower left. That's kind of a more traditional technology. As you can imagine, everything is going to smartphone alerts, but the emergency alert stations still work and will still be active in case of an emergency. The other important way to be informed, I really want to emphasize here, and that's the My Shake app. You go to the App Store and you look for My Shake. This will give you a few seconds of warning may give you a few seconds of warning before an earthquake. In other countries like Taiwan and Japan, this has been very effective in giving 10 to 60 seconds of warning before an earthquake. And that doesn't sound like very much, but let me tell you, 10 seconds of warning is enough time for you to get under your desk. 10 seconds of warning is enough time for surgeons to pull the scalpel out of a patient so that they don't mess up something during an earthquake. It's enough time to stop elevators. It's enough time to stop trains. Non-moving trains tend to not shake off tracks. Moving trains tend to shake off of tracks. But for you personally, this My Shake app, what'll happen is, regardless of if your phone is on silent, regardless if your phone is in sleep mode, it will give a very loud alarm and it'll say earthquake, 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 take cover. And that means, again, this is one of those situations that you don't question it, you get under your desk and then question it when you're out from under your desk. Or if you're in a bed, you're going to pull the covers over your head, or whatever it is, you're going to take cover. And this My Shake app, it's new in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's going to be an amazing lifesaver for an earthquake. The My Shake app. Right, the Red Cross also has an emergency app where you get warnings about severe weather and other emergency alerts. So I recommend the Red Cross emergency app. If you don't want to do the Red Cross emergency app, at least do a weather.com or My Weather or one of those, and sign up for the notifications on one of the weather apps so that you learn about severe weather and severe events. They'll use those even if it's not a severe weather event, flood is weather. All these things are weather. So they'll use that for wildfires also, for example. So somewhere get an emergency app, either from a weather.com or I like the Red Cross one, but I'm biased. I wear a red shirt all day. So I'm biased that way. All right. We're talking about being informed. We can't talk about everything, but again, back to the brochure, right? Be ready for an earthquake by knowing how to shut off your utilities, Be ready for an earthquake by securing your space, like bolting down your bookcases, bolting down your TV, and bolting down your hot water heater. And then learn, drop, cover, and hold on for various situations. What are you going to do if you're at your desk? That's easy. What are you going to do if you're in your bed? You're going to pull the covers over your head. You're not going to get out of your bed. What are you going to do if you're out in a wide open space? You're just going to drop to the floor and use your hands to cover your head. So all of these things are in the Red Cross presentation on earthquakes. You'll learn all of these things. We can't go into more detail today, but know that there's a follow-on. We're doing general preparation, overview preparation today. If you request for your group or for any group you're with, including Girl Scout troop or Rotary Club, we have a presentation specifically toward earthquakes. We have a presentation specifically toward wildfires, where we'll talk about how to harden your home, what are the most vulnerable parts of your home, and they're really quite easy to take care of. We'll talk about creating defensible zones for wildfires. We'll talk about what the high hazard plants are, eucalyptus being by far the most prevalent around here. Eucalyptus are like flares. They're like torches. They're incredibly dangerous in a wildfire. And that beautiful pampas grass that we have everywhere is another bunch of torches sitting there waiting for a wildfire to ignite them. So we'll talk about those kind of things in the Red Cross presentation on wildfires on being informed. If we're talking about being informed, there's also taking first aid classes so that you can help your family if someone gets injured after some kind of an event, or even not after an event. You don't need a disaster to have a heart attack. You don't need a disaster to get a big burn in the kitchen. You don't need a disaster to have someone fall and twist an ankle or cut something. And certainly you don't need a disaster for a car accident. So you can make a real difference by taking a Red Cross first aid class and learning how to save a life. Learning how to use those AEDs that are on the wall in the airport and the gym, and learning how to handle emergencies until in a disaster, you'll be the only responder, but even on a day-to-day basis, you'll be the first responder, and you can really make a difference in your family by taking a first aid class. So part of being informed is taking first aid classes. And I strongly suggest, obviously I suggest the first aid classes at the Red Cross. Another way of being informed is to connect with your neighbors. Study after study shows that the neighborhoods that know each other are far more resilient recovering from a disaster after disaster. Now, most of the studies have been done with tornadoes because those are much more common than earthquakes or floods are. But the studies show that the neighbors that have talked to each other, the neighbors that wave to each other, the neighbors that know each other recover much better than neighborhoods that don't, and they recover faster than neighborhoods that don't know each other. So there are neighborhood watch meetings you can set up, go to your PTA meetings, call your fire department and ask if they have CERT teams. That's advanced level training in preparation. Go to your homeowners association meetings, or maybe you have neighborhood association meetings, and get to know your neighbors and connect with your neighbors, and maybe have a neighborhood first aid, have a neighborhood Red Cross presentation. But start to get to know your neighbors is a key part to being resilient after a disaster. Another way to connect is to be a Red Cross volunteer. So quick little advertising here that there's a phone number there and an email there. Remember, you'll have a copy of this presentation and you'll have a video of this presentation. So there's your contact numbers if you're interested in getting informed and helping out by being a Red Cross volunteer. All right, one more time, and then I'll stop the broken record. Is this brochure is what we stepped through very quickly today, but what you're going to go into more depth on getting ready and on being ready for the next disaster, whether that disaster is a true disaster like an earthquake or a windstorm, or whether it's a more local disaster like a flood or a sea level surge, or whether it's a very local disaster and it's a fire in your home. Being Red Cross ready means preparing for those events by getting a kit, making a plan, and being informed. All right. So what do I think are the 3 most important things that you can do to get ready is this slide right here. 3 things you can do is store 10 to 14 gallons of water per person. Store any amount of water per person. If 10 to 14 gallons of water seems overwhelming, then store much less than that. But storing water is probably the most important part of your preparedness kit, because that's going to be the thing that's going to have the least access. Don't forget, San Diego and even its suburbs are all fairly old neighborhoods. The pipes under our street, both the sewer pipes and the fresh water pipes, are very old. And if there's an earthquake or major flood, those pipes are not going to work. You're not going to have water coming to your house. And if you do have water coming in your house, it's probably been mixed with the broken sewer pipes, and so it's not drinkable anyway. So water is what you need to survive. Water is what you need to live. So 10 to 14 gallons of water per person. The challenge on this is, where do you store the water, right? Because that's a lot of water, right? So first of all, I like the 5-gallon containers, either the 5-gallon Sparklets jugs that are, from Sparklets or Arrowhead, or even the grocery store, or even the water store has those 5-gallon jugs. The problem with those 5-gallon jugs is they're impossible to stack and store. So then there's these square and rectangular jugs. Some call them Jerry jugs, that you can get from REI, or you can get from Walmart or Target, that store 5 gallons each. And those are much easier to stack in a closet, in a garage. Best place to stack them is if you're in a home, then and you have a shed in the backyard, then it's kind of away from the house, and that's a great place if you happen to be so lucky to A, be in a house, and B, have a shed behind the house. That rocks. I've seen people, I've never done it myself, I've seen people put those narrow ones, those jugs, behind the couch in their living room. No one knows they're there. You can probably get 6 or 8 of them behind your couch or under your bed or something like that. And then, hang on a sec, I'm sorry, I got a tickle in my and then you're ready, and they're out of the way, and you have a place to store them. So the challenge is forcing yourself to go get the containers of water and then finding a place to store them. But I would say that's the number 1 thing you can do this week to prepare. Number 2 is to prepare your under the bed kit and your mobile kit. Those should be fairly easy to prepare yourself by going to 2 trips, one to Home Depot and one to CVS. And then the third thing I would say is register the 2 apps, the MyShake app and the ReadySanDiego.org Alert San Diego. Prepare by downloading those 2 apps.
Hey, Mike.
All right. So yeah, this is a good time to interrupt again.
Just a quick request to share this slide again, showing the under the bed kit.
Okay, so that's right here. Do you see it now? Yeah, you should see it. Do you see the contents of the under the bed kit here? I'm just trying to circle it with my mouse.
Do you see that, Deborah? It's number 2. If you want to unmute, Deborah, you can let us know if you see that. Oh, she does. Yeah, she replied via chat. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I can share any slide again, but I'll take a couple questions now. But also, we're almost at the top of the hour, and I want to respect that. When we hit the top of the hour, feel free to check out and leave this conversation. I will stay on and answer questions for as long as you want. So, but I don't want to hold you onto this phone call. So you're not hurting my feelings. Hopefully you're not hurting Mark's feelings by going ahead and checking out now and leaving this conversation if you want to. But if you want to stay and ask questions, I'm more than glad to stay on.
Yeah, we have a small group, so you're welcome to stay for a couple of minutes. If not, you can exit yourself. All you do is go back down to the right-hand corner where it says leave meeting and click on that. And we want to thank you for your attendance. But like I said, and Mike offered, if you have a question you'd like to ask Mike, just to reiterate, Mike is going to send me the guide. It's a PDF. It'll be electronic. We will have it. And he's also going to send the presentation that he just went through. So we'll have both of those things in the next couple of days. So once again, all you have to do is send us an email. Can everybody see that? It just says resdec@resdec.net. If you don't want to send an email, give us a call and let us know where we can email it to you. Because if we get an email from you, then we can just directly reply to it and attach both the presentation and the kit or the Be Ready guide when we receive them.
What else, you guys? You have an
Anything else?
opportunity here to think about preparation. And now that we're over time, you're getting personal attention. So,
Well, I'll speak for myself, Mike. The information that you have shared is we don't think about these things enough, right?
right.
And I think it's an important reminder of how prepared we can be if we so choose, right?
You know what we don't think about, Mark? We don't think about home fires.
Right.
Some of us think about earthquakes because it's hard to miss that message, right?
Yeah.
To prepare, store water. And you can't help but think about wildfires because we're choking on the smoke a couple times a year. But we forget about the real disaster. The real one to prepare for is home fires.
Yeah.
And that's why I focused a little bit on that kind of in this overview presentation.
Yeah, you just got kudos from Deborah, who left us for a great presentation and great information.
Okay.
So I'll pass.
For some
that
reason,
along.
I'm not seeing the chats. I'm not sure why, but I mean, I have the chat window open, but they're not showing up. So
We have them to send to ResDec only by default. So
okay.
Yeah, so that
All
way
right.
I can, like I usually do in other presentations, where I just copy it onto a Word document. And
Got it.
We've gotten all the ones that I received.
Good.
So I think we're good, Mike.
Okay.
And the great thing is that once again, everyone, this presentation will be posted to our ResDec YouTube channel. Just go to resdec.net, www.resdec.net. I'm going to show it to you one more time. I just need to find it here.
And not just for you, Mark, in your group, but anyone else, you can call the Red Cross and ask for presentations, follow-up presentations on wildfires, on home fires, on earthquakes, on windstorms, on whatever you want a follow-up presentation on. We have many follow-up presentations, and so we'll do that for any group, not just your group, if someone
That's
else
great.
is interested in that.
And that's just, is that just Google American Red Cross Southern California, and then they'll be able to get to the website?
Right. If you just Google American Red Cross, you'll get to the national, and that's
Great.
fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll get to us, but you get to us much faster if you Google American Red Cross of Southern California or of San Diego.
Okay. So once again, here's our homepage. Right down here, I'm scrolling down a little bit. Click on ResDec YouTube and give us a couple of days, and we'll have that this presentation, this excellent presentation that Mike just completed up for you.
Okay.
Thanks again, Mike.
All right,
And
sure.
thanks everyone
Sure.
for
Glad to be here.
your
Sure.
attendance, and we really appreciate the partnership, Mike, and the collaboration. And I have no doubt that I'll be abusing your phone number in the future
That's
to try and get you back for another one, maybe at
Sounds
some point
good.
during the year. So
Sounds good.
all right, everybody, I'm going to go
All
ahead and end the meeting now for us all. And once again, Mike, great thanks to you and Kaylee both. Please pass that along. And thanks to everybody for your attendance today. Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.